Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm Kriti. I head marketing at IdeaForge. We're very excited to host you online for our fireside chat with Sri Amber Dubey, Joint Secretary of Ministry of Civil Aviation and a very strong advocate for the Indian drone ecosystem. This will be followed by a launch of IdeaForge's drone buyback offer, which everyone is eagerly waiting for. Today, the fireside chat between Sri Amber Dwivedi, who needs no further introduction, and Mr. Ankit Mehta, co-founder and CEO of IdeaForge, will be about building an Atmanirbhar India and the pressing need for a fully indigenous drone technology. Building a self-reliant India is the need of the hour, and with the nation burgeoning towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, let us take inspiration from the session today. Opening the stage for you, Ankit. Please go ahead.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Kruti. So it is indeed my extreme pleasure, genuine pleasure, and honor to host Sri Amber Dubey for this fireside chat today. What is really inspiring about Amber is his boundless energy and drive towards the drone ecosystem that all of us are well aware of in the ecosystem today. And I believe, Amber, said the roots of this are probably from your time at IIT Bombay when you were a well recognized sports person there, as well as I think, I feel and I believe that the roots of leadership in championing a cause probably emanate from the time that you were the sports general secretary at IIM Ahmedabad as well. So, I have a curiosity to, understand from you that how did it lead to you deeply looking at the aerospace and defense ecosystem in India over a period of time?
Yeah, first of all, thanks so much for this grand introduction. Okay, I don't, that's a little overkind, and I don't know how you investigated all that background, but thanks so much. Very kind of you. And coming quickly to why aerospace, I mean, it's something you're born with. I mean, somebody likes a flute, somebody likes to be a car driver, somebody wants to be in the movies. I just was fascinated by aircraft ever since I was a small kid. So. And I'm just lucky. My parents also named me Amber, so sort of destiny brought you here. Ankit?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's very interesting. So what I was saying is that from leading and championing the cause of the industry from the Big Four to the ministry, how did that happen?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. You're saying how did I move from private sector to the government?
Yeah.
See, it's just one of those things I take one day at a time. I've never planned, and God has been very kind to me. I come from a very small town, very modest background, and God gave me almost 5 times of whatever I dreamt of at age 20, 30 or 40. So now I'm 50 plus, and when this opportunity came, I just felt this is worth taking a shot. And then I spoke, obviously, joining the government is not a small thing. So I did take advice from a lot of people, a lot of ex-secretaries and joint secretaries and other friends and batchmates who are in the government. And the other thing which also drove the decision was the fact that even when I was in consulting and we were working both with the government and with the private sector, somehow I always got that extra kick when working with the government. When you work for the government, any small recommendation you give to improve the government's working or reforming a particular order or a policy or a regulation, you see that the impact is nationwide and forever till such time that the rule or that particular law is changed.
Yeah, that's exactly why I asked you this question, Amber sir, because I believe that that passion is something that really gives us a kick as well when you speak about it. The other thing is that it's a big curiosity for us as to when, why, and how did drones take center stage at the ministry?
No, see, it's very, now how do I put it here? I mean, you're asking all the good and tough questions. See, drones has always been a focus. It's just that there's so many good things which have happened, but they've happened behind the scenes. See, what we do is, we only see the outcome. We don't see the process. So sometimes, when we judge people by outcomes, it may not reflect the hard work which is going. Today, since I'm talking to you, so even if a small order comes out for Locust, or a small order comes out for UP government for something, or with Indian Oil, you're seeing the process. So you realize how tough or easy it is to even to get an order out for Indian Oil. Okay, so now you appreciate it more. But it's not that things were not happening earlier. It was always center stage. Ankit?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, the question I had is that, now that we have focus and attention, how is the current scenario, especially in the whole COVID situation that we have started to talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat? How have drones, and what do you think in terms of both the requirement on the Atmanirbhar Bharat side as well as, how are drones becoming an important factor in that area?
Okay, there are two, three questions within that question. So I'll just take part A first. So one is on this whole corona, and then along with that, we had another viral issue, which is the locust issue. So as they say, never
Right.
let a crisis go to waste, because crisis will happen. I mean, this is God's way of saying, I'm the boss. You're just a petty human being. So crisis will happen again and again. Now the key factor is, do you let that crisis go waste, or make something out of it? And I somehow feel that this came as a shot in our arm, because see, drones, yes, they were there, but with so many restrictions, and from a safety, security, privacy issues are so deep in our country that we were not able to get the right focus. But with these two crises which came, first Corona and then the locust, suddenly people saw the real power. And as our Prime Minister also says, ultimately it all comes down to facts, figures, pictures and videos, because these are the things which don't lie. Otherwise, I can go on and on about what a great work we are doing, and this is this and that, so on and so forth. Okay, but ultimately what people like is numbers, pictures and videos. So with Corona and then with the locust, we could actually show all the three things. The numbers, we could show the impact, we could show the pictures, we could show the videos, because these things don't lie. And then even at the state level, I mean, I don't want to get political here, but you're seeing what is happening in the state of Rajasthan. But we were completely cut out of that, because on 20th May, as you all know, these are all there on the website. The reference or the letters which came from Agri Ministry and the orders we released. So on 20th May we got the order, the letter from from the Agri Ministry. The same night it was cleared within the ministry and sent immediately. And this was a banned activity, right? So they had sought permission to upturn the ban, but only limited to locust, and that too in Rajasthan. So same day it was processed in the ministry, cleared within the same day. Evening 8 p.m. it was sent to the minister's residence. And next morning it had come in a signed form, and by afternoon we had released the order. So for the first time in 72 years, something which was a banned activity, the ban was upturned only for anti-locust operations in a matter of less than 24 hours. So it just shows it happens. And you're seeing the state of Rajasthan. As I said, I don't want to get into politics, but never once did a question come in, which is the state government and how will we collaborate with them, so on and so forth. We had a job to do, we did the job. Okay, so that's on the crisis front. And similarly on Corona also, a lot of good work has happened in terms of aerial photography, aerial scanning, surveillance, etc. Where when sitting in a police thana, you can actually, on your TV screens, you can see what's happening in the congested gullies outside. Imagine, I mean, a cop is safe from a safety angle and from an infection angle. From both angles, he's safe sitting in a thana and doing as much surveillance as he wants and take actions accordingly. So both these crises came as a shot in our arm, and now we don't need any convincing. And the last part which happened was the local media, because typically media, we always say they're always chasing TRPs or something, but we saw that in the case of drones, we only got positive media. At the end of it all, as I say, pictures, videos, and observations on the ground and the numbers never lie. So those things happen. And I'm being repetitive that these actually came as a shot in arm. Now coming quickly back to the part B of your question was on Atmanirbhar Bharat. I mean, we don't even need to explain it. I mean, in fact, the question should be asked is, why are we not Atmanirbhar? Because Atmanirbhar Bharat was always a policy of the government. It's just that after this incident, we've been shaken up and woken up, and thank God for that. Ankit?
So that's actually a great feedback, Amber sir, Amber, regarding the importance of indigenization. Now, when we talk of indigenization, there are always various contours and context in indigenization with respect to whether it is with respect to country origin, whether it is with respect to to what level do we indigenize, and what is the vision at your end in terms of to what extent do we want to indigenize, and what are the opportunities in those indigenization scenarios?
These government contracts and through these exemptions, okay, we are opening up mass benefit areas which require mass use of drones. Because see, just by Indian oil, right now we've only given it for say Delhi Panipat. Delhi Panipat can always become, I mean, that's a small segment, maybe 100, 150 kilometers. Very soon that can become 1500 kilometers. Then it can become 15,000 kilometers. And that's just for Indian oil. Then similarly, there are so many other oil companies and so many other gas companies and PNG and CNG and all kinds of GAIL and Petronet, etc. All that opens up. It's always the first one which is difficult, okay? Because that took some time, because Indian Oil has been chasing us for a long time. We had lots of issues, but gradually, if both parties have a positive intent to help each other, we found a way out. And most of those objections were finally addressed. So this we are talking about is only one company in one sector. Similarly, there are so many such use cases which can open up, and each one opens up thousands and thousands of kilometers, which means hundreds and hundreds of drones. So on the demand side, we are creating, and as I said, this is just one use case. Similarly, there's Swamitwa, there's so many other, like on the power line, like we gave it for Maharashtra Transco. If you give it for Maharashtra Transco, the 30 other states, they can also approach us, and we'll be very happy to sit with them, chat with them, address the safety, security, and privacy issues, and we will come back with the exemption. So if you notice, each of these use cases is opening up demand for hundreds and hundreds of drones. Even on the locust side, it started with only 5 into 5, 25 drones, but now they've come up with another 3-month trend. The 3 month may become 6 months, because the locusts are not going to get wiped out. Locusts will breed and come here year after year. So which means more and more opportunities will open up. So on the demand side, through the government side, we are opening up more demand. Similarly, the same thing will then percolate down to private sector. With private sector, we will take some time, but sooner or later that will also happen. Similarly, on the supply side, first we had on the yuans, there were a lot of issues, barely 10 yuans given or 11 yuans given in 18 months. Okay, now that number has gone up to say 27 or 28. And hopefully, once the Digital Sky phase 1 goes live on 2nd of October, okay, we'll see many more yuans being issued. Even under the new draft rules, we're trying to simplify things. So on the supply side also, you'll have many more drones which will come into the regulatory fold. And then also see on the DAN side, see many of these government agencies, now they're not only insisting on UANs, because otherwise they'll be limited to just 27 drones, and that too, many of them are large and medium, which has height restrictions and all. So then we opened up to DANs, and when we had this quick process started in January, we had 20,000 drones, and right now also maybe another 1,000 odd drones have registered since we opened up in June. So from the supply side, we are also pumping in more and more drones. So, and each of these drones then creates the market for the components. So of course, now you will say 20,000, nothing compared to millions of drones which China is doing. But then see, Rome was not built in a day, but they put a brick every hour. So that is what we are doing, and inshallah, maybe in a year or 2 years' time, we'll see volumes build up to a level where it will make sense for even our Excites and the Amar Rajas of India to start looking at this in a serious manner. Ankit?
Absolutely. So, Amber, another thing which was very interesting in some of our conversations earlier was the whole incentive or the whole area of supporting the drone ecosystem via creating a fund of sorts which promotes indigenization and supports indigenous technology. Any in-store thoughts you have on that as well?
Yeah, so we are all aware of the Disha fund that we keep talking about, and we've got some great suggestions from people. Drone Federation has sent some details about the professors and the areas in which they are operating. So just for those who may not be aware, we're talking about the Disha fund. Disha simply stands for Drones for Infra, Security, Healthcare and Agri. These are the 4 broad areas: infra, security, healthcare and agri. And once you do, say, battery development for agri, the same technology applies to every other field also. So we are using these four as the starting points because these are mass benefit areas. They touch the masses. So these are the four areas, and these four areas itself are mammoth. When you say infra itself has so many sub branches within infra. Within just transportation, you'll have there's highways, there's railways, there's roadways, there's ports, there's airports. Each one of those is a huge potential user of drones already or maybe in future. Okay, and that's just transportation. Then there's power. Okay, there's telecom. So within infrastructure, and then there's social infrastructure. So just one word, I, for infrastructure opens up so many subsectors within infrastructure. So these are the four broad areas where we are focusing on.
Yeah. So first of all, I'd like to compliment you are very comfortably anticipating most of the questions that we may have had, and we are having responses to those questions while the response is happening. So it's really amazing to have this conversation with you, Amber. The other area which wanted to touch upon very briefly is what is the vision on the government side, and this is not necessarily MOCA related question, but on the government side, that there is an opportunity which has come up now, given that our northeastern neighbor is out of favor globally in a very big way after this pandemic. So, what is the vision on that side? How do we leverage or capitalize on that opportunity? With are there conversations around that, and what can we do together for leveraging for the ecosystem here? Because the demand has to come from global demand. That's how we will scale, massively.
There's a lot of chat going on, even on the investment promotion. Now you're aware that we've set up this investment clearance cell, of which I've been given the honor of being the chairman and promoting it. If you guys get to know about some company or somebody who's looking at India, European company looking at Asia, and you let us know if it's related to aviation, even if it's not related to aviation. In each ministry, they are setting up these ICCs, these investment clearance cells, which will immediately reach out to them on a proactive basis rather than just waiting for them to come calling on us. Now the war has to be taken to the other end. So just like the Vietnamese and the Cambodians and the Thais would be proactively reaching out to potential investors, we too will do the same thing. And we also, just a last point, I know I've dragged this too long. We have this Invest India organization. It's an absolute corporate organization run by ex-City banker. I'm forgetting his name, but very dynamic person. I mean, you can just Google it and you'll get to know. It will come to me in a few minutes. But he's ex-City Bank, and he's running it like a private sector organization. In fact, I'll encourage many of you to go down to Vigyan Bhavan. It's in the Annex C next to Vigyan Bhavan, very close to Rajpath. And you just see and go there, and you realize as if you're in a five-star corporate office. Okay, and you'll only see young people. The average age there must be. He's Deepak Bagla. Sorry, I said forgot his name for a second. Deepak Bagla, a very sharp guy, and he's been handpicked by the big boss and put in there. And he's proactive. He and his team. And as I said, the average age there would be about 2022. You see all youngsters roaming around there in all flurry of excitement and energy. And they are the ones who are chasing sector after sector, people after people. They're scoring the internet for any hint of any investment anywhere in the world. And then they pick it up and they speak to that company and immediately connect them to the respective ministries. And then we are supposed to be like a pack of wolves attacking that potential investor and go get things done. So this is what we are trying to do. Now, ultimately, see, this is all big talk on a webinar, but ultimately we'll be measured again on the three things, as I said, numbers, pictures, and videos. So at this moment, we've just begun, but we are keeping an eye out. But ultimately, we'll have to prove over the next 6 months or 12 months through numbers, pictures, and videos. Ankit?
Thanks, Amber. Definitely, I think as an industry, we are completely behind you in terms of supporting any cause that you're taking up, and we'll be very happy to connect relevant holders. And I speak on behalf of the industry over here. Amber, another question, and I'll probably, field just two more questions from my side, and maybe we'll try and take a couple of questions from the audience we have today. One question I have is, what is the vision for the next 2 years for the drone technology and the airspace readiness in India? What's the vision? Do we have some view of that we can share with the people here?
2 years is more about operational and tactics. Okay, vision is more like a 20-year dream. So 20-year dream is very simple. We want to be a drone hub. Okay, that's very clear. We want to be self-sufficient. We don't want to depend on petty stuff like the BMPs, as we call it, the battery motors and propellers, on such petty stuff to be dependent on a foreign country. Number three, we are the country with huge amount of demands. We are the ones who have the leapfrog capability because we don't have any legacy drones which we are stuck with. Okay, we are a massive country which is spread out. The four areas which we keep talking about, Disha, or remove the D, Isha, infrastructure, safety, disaster, healthcare, agri. These are massive use cases. So we have enough demand and more within the country that we can spend the next 10 years just addressing the domestic supply. And then you asked a good question about global, because, and I've seen that little chatter on our Dronacharya group also. No technology is good enough if it's just meant for the local market. So we expect some of you may decide to go global.
Sure, Amber. So now that we've reached almost near our time, there are two questions that I'll take. I had a couple of more questions, but I'll skip them. And two questions that I'll take from the audience. One, and as usual, you've already addressed 90% of the questions asked. So that's really amazing. Just want to ask one question, and it's a very tactical, good question, which is that in the rules, we have introduced the concept of drone ports. And what Seth, who's asked this question, wants to know is, can we highlight the perspective of the ministry for these in terms of why do we need them and what are the expectations?
So see, I'll stop at a conceptual level because, as I said, this thing is still under development, and a lot of people have given their comments. We don't know what will finally go into the rules because there's a separate team, and I'm not qualified to speak on that. We've given our own views, and so I'll not drag too much on the drone ports. Drone ports are just like any other heliport or an airport, because fine. I mean, a drone by the very nature can take off from anywhere and go anywhere. But just like helicopters, they also need a parking place, a place, which can convert into a center of excellence. That place can have research. It will have all kinds of repair facilities. Okay, it's more like a what do you call? I would just call it a center of excellence because it's not about a giant land area, because we're not talking about large aircraft. And inshallah, sooner or later, when we go to the fixed wings, okay, some of our unused airports which are lying waste, okay, we have 450 odd runways and airfields in this country. Okay, though the operational airports are only about 105 odd, 100 plus. Okay, but we have 450 odd airfields because these are all World War era fields, PSUs, private companies have it, so many, and of course defense airfields, etc. So 450 is a big number. So some of those can also be converted from fixed wing. Once we go into larger fixed wing, so where do we experiment? They have to take off from somewhere. So some of those aerodromes can convert into drone ports. So, but that will evolve. These are still early days. Let it evolve. At this moment, I don't have much to offer you and satisfy you. Ankit?
Absolutely. So one of the questions was from Group Captain Ashok Choradia regarding building an infrastructure for humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, because typically I am assuming that in these kind of situations there isn't a capacity building, it has to be built upfront. So are there conversations around that which are happening which will help us be prepared for these kind of scenarios?
Okay, brutal, quick and honest answer, no, we don't have any such plan. But this is where, again, we would encourage the industry to come out, treat us like your big brothers, okay? And we will work with you. We are always welcome with ideas. Similarly, on disaster, if you have any ideas about, because also by the very nature, disaster can happen anywhere. But then, having said so, there are also some standard places. Right now, Assam and the eastern part of the country is under floods. Bihar, the Kosi River, or you have the cyclone in Andhra and Orissa coast. So lots of these things are known. So if you have any ideas how we can create ready-made drone centers where you don't need to park drones, because drones have to earn money to justify themselves. But is there some emergency method by which, if you have satellite warnings about a cyclone coming or whatever, okay, can immediately, these are the known people, and DFI, they've done a fantastic work during Corona. The Drone Federation guys had volunteers in almost all the 30 states to whom police reached out, and many of them did the work absolutely free of cost. So kudos to them. Okay, so is there some way by which the drones can be immediately? There are some helpline numbers through which the drones and the pilots and the volunteers can immediately reach the danger zone and help the authorities and the NDRF and various other people to discover some maroon people, or to help even direct the very costly infrastructure which goes into disaster relief. Because see, even if you bring in the naval or the air force pilots, or the boats and the motor boats from the military and NDRF, okay, they're also limited. They're not unlimited. So even if you get 100 boats, or 20 helicopters, they have to be stationed or sent in the right direction. And drones can play a big role. And you can't send helicopters on a sortie to first find out where people are marooned. That job can be done at a fraction of a cost by several drones flying at the same time. And then based on that, the decision makers can decide where to send the next helicopter sortie. So I appreciate the question. It's a very good point. And disaster is one of our focus areas. Okay, also on the environment side, on environmental degradation, afforestation, etc., poaching, wildlife poaching. Lots of those areas, drones have a very important role to play. So any ideas you have, just throw it at us. We may not be able to respond to you quickly because we are inundated by papers and emails and WhatsApps. Okay, but we'll try and respond to at the fastest. And wherever we see a good idea, we will fight it out and get the necessary exemptions or permissions. Ankit?
Amber, this was one of the most no holds barred, deep, insightful sessions that I've attended. I'm so glad that we were able to host you today and learn from you in terms of not just what the mindset is in the ministry, but also get a glimpse of what we can envision and the pace at which the change is happening and how we are going to enable this industry. I'm sure that on the industry's behalf, I can say that we will do everything in our powers and to our greatest extent to continue to enable and be supportive and constructive in our approach towards the industry. I will thanking you tremendously, Amber, for taking your time today. And we'll request you to kindly hold for a bit more. I'll request Kruti to now take the proceedings to the next part of the session. Thanks a lot, Amber. Over to you, Kruti.
Thank you so much. It was a very, very insightful and deep conversation. I think the number of questions that's pouring in and compliments to you is a testimony of that fact. It was really, really nice. In the interest of time, without further ado, we should now move to the final leg of today's e-meet, which is the launch of Idea Forge's drone buyback offer. So let's just, a lot of people waiting to understand what this is. So yeah, we are getting rid of the non-compliant drones with NPNT compliant drones and with benefits of up to 1.5 lakhs doing the same. So I'll just take you through a little more about what the buyback offer is. I think my video is stuck. Yeah. So right. So this is the buyback offer, and with the buyback offer, you simply exchange your old non-compliant drone, non-NPNT drone, and get a cash discount on a purchase of a DGCA approved NPNT compliant Ninja mapping UAV. This is the drone as seen. So what do we get with this, right? So apart from the cash discount, you get additional hardware like batteries and chargers, along with the one-time 20% discount for any future purchase, whether it's a drone or spares. This offer is valid till 31st of March, which is the financial year. And that it's not just here, we go on to offer something more, which is an extended support package of 1 year or 500 cycles, whichever is earlier at a discounted price. You can avail this extended support package up to 3 times, making it literally one of the lowest cost of ownership for any drone globally. So just, we spoke a lot about how COVID has affected cash flow. So we definitely understand that So buying a mapping UAV to run business can be challenging in these COVID times, as cash flows are a big concern at the moment. We'd like to announce the drone industry's first financing option available with this offer to help our industry friends and partners. All you have to do to enroll is to just go to our website and click on the buyback offer. The offer is now live and it's published across all social media channels and everywhere. You can get access to the offer, and it's a two-step process where you'll have to enter this form and the next form, which is mostly about your drone. So yes, so this is basically what the buyback offer is, and all you have to do is fill in a few forms and see what are the benefits you're eligible for from your old non-compliant drones. So that's it. This is the launch, and thank you. This brings us to the conclusion of the meetup. We'd like to believe that this was a very insightful session for you. Thank you for joining us, and I'd really especially like to thank Sri Ambar Dubey creating this meetup with your presence. Let us all build a self-reliant and compliant India together. Signing off. Thank you.